Hello everyone, the Nerdy Steve here, and today we will be featuring a Rakdos midrange deck and Explore. The link to the list is in the description below. I'm going to talk about the general plan of the deck, and then we'll play a couple of games. So, let's go. If you played Explore at all in the last, month or ever, really, Black-Red has been a very, very huge part of the metagame since, really, its inception on Arena. And it's kind of just because it's a general good stuff deck. It's very much the epitome of mid-range. It's not particularly aggressive, though it can be. It's not particularly controlling, though it can be. And what you really want to do is you just have a lot of one-for-one cards with, Bloodchief's Thirst and Thoughtseize to, disrupt and Fatal Push to disrupt your opponent early on, or, stop their very, very aggressive creatures so you don't die. And then as you survive late in the game, you get all of this card advantage from the 2-for-1s from Bonecrusher Giant, from Chandra, from Kolaghan's Command and Fable of the Mirror Breaker, and even Kroxa. With Bloodtithe Harvester, you get to loot away the cards you don't need. So it could be extra lands. You could loot away your removal against decks that don't have a lot of creatures. So, and we talk about Blood and Fable of the Mirror Breaker and how that's really, really beneficial in a lot of best of one games. I mean, it's really good in best of three, right? But being able to throw away cards in your hand that you don't need to find stuff you do is just what makes those cards really, really outstanding. And then we also have Graveyard Trespasser as a way, to. It's really, really good. And again, like both against aggro and versus control. Against aggro, exiling cards to gain a couple life is really, really good. And against control, exiling creatures to deal extra damage is really, really good, right? So Graveyard Trespasser and Graveyard Glutton just kind of the that effect is so relevant no matter what you're playing against. And then we have a new Explorer card, Kalitas, Traitor of Ghet. And what this does is, again, once it's on the battlefield, anytime an opponent creature would die, you get a 2-2. So, if you Kalitas and then, Fatal Push something, that's amazing, right? But it also has the lifelink ability, and they can also sacrifice those vampires or zombies that you create to, pump Kalitas up more, and then you deal more damage and you gain more life. So it's just a really, really good, again, mid-rangey card. And, I mean, that's what all of this deck is, mid-rangey, right? There's opportunities to, when the card lasts a long time, like Chandra or Kalitas or Graveyard Trespasser, you're just getting so much incremental advantage every turn. And that's what this deck wants to do. Control early game with removal and or Thoughtseize. Mid game, you want a 2-for-1 your opponent. Maybe apply a little pressure with, a Bonecrusher Giant or Bloodtithe Harvester. And then late game, you want Kalitas and Chandra and Fable of the Mirror Breaker. And even like Castle Locthwain to just give you more and more cards over time, and then eventually kill your opponent. Makes sense? Maybe, but we can play some games and see how it actually plays out. Okay, this is kind of an ideal hand for this deck, and particularly, why this deck is really good. We have Thoughtseize on turn 1 as Disruption, followed by a turn 2 play and a turn 3 play. We also have a choice of either Stomping or Bloodtithe Harvester on turn 2 if we really, really want to. I guess we're going to get rid of the Annex. So our opponent's on mono red, which makes our Thoughtseize a little worse there, but, it's fine. Because, the Annex would probably deal more than 2 damage, so it's not like we're speeding up our opponent's clock that much. We're going to take 1 here, and now we have to figure out if we want to stomp the Emissary or not. I'm going to go with yes. And then next turn we can Bonecrusher Giant, which can block that. I think the Harvester, if our opponent draws a removal spell for it, we take a lot more damage in the long run. So I think the Stomp there killing the 2/2, which we would have to deal with anyway, is probably fine. We're going to do red because we need double red on turn 4. We don't want to need an untapped Blood Crypt. And now we just wait to see what we need. Our opponent being at 20 and us being at 13, like, that's a lot. Alright. Oh, and an Annex. Now we have to figure out what we were going to do. I was like, do we Chandra here? But I don't hate the Heartless Act. First our creature with no counters on it. That was such a great draw. Because if we cast Chandra and went to kill Annex, our opponent could then Fanatical Firebrand to kill the Chandra. Would get a 1/1 Satyr, kill Chandra, and then get another Satyr from the Annex, and I just think that's ultimately not particularly wonderful for us. So being able to remove the Annex, not leave our Chandra vulnerable, and being able to cast the Bloodtithe Harvester, exactly what we want to be doing. And next turn, if we really, really need to, we have double removal with the Chandra and Bloodchief's Thirst. We can also... we just have so much to do. And 13, while still not as high as, 40 life, which we would like to be against mono red, we're kind of fine. Oh. I feel like this says Embercleave. Oh no, it's Castle Embereth. Alright, no, I'm so fine with this trade, though. I'm very, very fine. I was worried about Embercleave, but that's also a really good trade for us. Okay. We will Bloodchief's Thirst that. We took 2 damage, which actually might be a little relevant, but we have our opponent on a 3-turn clock.
Today's my lucky day.
With just the Bonecrusher and Chandra. And if we want, we get to Hive of the Eye Tyrant next turn to kill our opponent. 4, 3, 2. So that's 9. So remember how I said we had a 2-turn clock? I may have lied. It was a 1-turn clock. Hopefully our opponent goes and attacks all. I doubt that's what's going to happen because we have lethal on board. But, sometimes you just... if you are our opponent, sometimes you just have to hope that we don't see it, because otherwise you don't have any chance to win. And then we plus Chandra. We don't cast anything and deal 2 damage, and that's a good game. This hand is, a little less than ideal because we don't have a Thoughtseize, but, beggars can't be choosers. We do have a turn 2 Bonecrush, or Stomp into something, but look what we drew. Doesn't that make you happy? Oh, our opponent is on Angels. Oh, wow, this isn't good for us. We need to get rid of Collected Company. Because our opponent's going to be gaining a lot of life. And that's just not good for us. But if we can, stall a little bit, we might be okay. I don't know, though. I'm a little scared. I'm a little scared. Beaker. Angiata. If we Kalitas now, and our opponent doesn't get an Angel or a land for Collected Company, we might be able to get past this, because Bonecrusher Giant can kill the Giada, we'll get our zombies or whatever, and we can start dealing a lot of damage. So that's gonna... Opponent gets a spirit here. Oh no, they don't? Oh, because it's exiled, it doesn't die. Yeah, I knew that. I knew that, everyone. I thought it was a triggered ability. I forgot that it was a replacement. So if a non-token creature an opponent controls would die, exile that card and create a 2/2 black zombie instead. Got it. Now, any angel our opponent gets is going to gain them a ton of life. So I think what I need to do here is kill a Bishop of Wings. So our opponent's now with Collected Company not gaining 16 life if 2 angels are found. And then activating Speaker, and then it becomes an unwinnable game. So let's see, what can we do here? Let's attack with everything. Let's plus... Yeah, let's get the Collected Company out of our opponent's hand. Does Resplendent Angel gain enough life? Oh, potentially... Because if we give our opponent a Resplendent Angel, they'll cast it, gain 4 life, and attack with the speakers to have gained 5, and that triggers Resplendent Angel. Is that good enough for our opponent, though? Going to 15? Uh... I don't know, everyone. I don't know. If our opponent draws a land, this could potentially be bad. But I think Resplendent Angel is just something that would be so good for our opponent. And not something I really wanted to mess with. Let's get rid of both these Trespassers. Oh, and we have a Fatal Push? Okay. Now that's good. Because now we get the zombie. This is huge. And we'll hold our Fatal Push and Bonecrusher Giant up. Alright, so if our opponent does that, let's just stomp away the Giada. This makes our opponent's Collected Company that much worse because the angels aren't becoming really, really big. Yeah, oh, and just double Bishop. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's Fatal Push it now so we get another zombie to attack with. Oh, and another Bonecrusher? Okay. GG. So our opening hand is going to have Bloodtithe Harvester on turn 2, followed by Graveyard Trespasser. We need another land to Chandra on 4. And not having a Fatal Push or a Thoughtseize for early interaction is a little, but you know, we're not going to mulligan. And I'm glad we didn't. Mulliganing against a deck with Thoughtseize is just always a disaster. So, you know, that would have made potentially any 6-card hand significantly worse than what we got here, right? And we have now the 4 lands, so we do get to go Harvester, Trespasser, Chandra, which is pretty good. Our opponent can have interaction for it, you know, because it is the mirror match. A lot of what our opponent does kind of lines up perfect against us, just how it is in playing first. Sometimes it's just very, very hard to come back from. So let's hope that isn't the case. But, like, this is funny, I think. Now, our opponent didn't Bloodtithe Harvester our Bloodtithe Harvester, which is a very interesting decision. Allowing, if your opponent doesn't do that, right, what it is doing is giving us the option if we want to trade Bloodtithe Harvesters instead of your opponent, making that decision. And it just, in general, that's something you would rather do. Like, I think you just want to be more proactive here. Because if we don't kill your Bloodtithe Harvester, that means we think ours is better. I don't know. Maybe that doesn't make sense. But in general, you don't want to give your opponent those options. And now we have to figure out what to do. So let's kill the Graveyard Trespasser. And now we say go. But look, this is like literally the exact mirror. And it's gonna really, oh, that Thoughtseize is really bad for us. Because we were hoping for the Graveyard Trespasser to exile the Kroxa. That's why I discarded it. And maybe I should have played around that. Because now this Kroxa can really, 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 really destroy us. Fatal Push? Or using the Blood. Heartless Act? Okay. So our opponent now will activate Den of the Bugbear to kill our Chandra, and then we just we cry. We cry. The good thing about this particular matchup, though, is you will see a Rakdos midrange deck win. So the deck currently has like, a really good win rate in this matchup. So I don't even know what we want, honestly. Kroxa, probably. Ooh, Kroxa might not be too terrible. Because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because we get to discard Sokenzan when our opponent casts Kroxa, and then we get to Bloodchief's Thirst it. Interesting. Our opponent has to. Oh wow. Well, there we go. We needed our opponent to just miss a little bit. Just a little bit. This is so brutal. And if we kept the both Trespassers, this is a very, very different game. Because the exiling the Kroxa is just so good. I mean, also, if we play first, it's a very, very different game. We'd be having the Chandra advantage and not our opponent. Yeah, Kalitas, and activate the Den. So I think we're just dead here. Oh, interesting. Probably gonna save for the castle here. We'll just attack. We're dead on the attack back, probably. I mean, our opponent's gonna gain life anyway, but we'll let our opponent, have to work for it, right? The Hive exiling the Kroxa, really, really good. A little too late. Oh, our opponent's gonna double block and we cry. We were gonna lose anyway, we were hoping they wouldn't see that. So 3, 4, 5, 6. We're somehow not dead, but do you know what? GG. Thank you for watching me play some Rakdos midrange and Explorer. This deck is really, really great. You got to see it win all those games, regardless of who was playing it. But I really, really like this deck because it's kind of just very good all the time. And by that I mean, like, it doesn't necessarily ever feel like games are unwinnable because you have a lot of answers, you always have a lot of things to do. Now, the trade-off there is it can sometimes feel just a little clunky at times, just a little, but that's because we're running a deck with so many 3-drops. It's so expensive, right? And that's just, just part of it. But this deck is great. I would highly recommend it for a couple reasons, but first, it is a very, very popular deck, and I think learning to play it really makes you learn to play against it that much more, because obviously you get to know the nuances and the different, variables and tiers of, what removal they have, what they could probably have. Like, you can always tell if someone has a Chandra, Torch of Defiance in their hand just by how they set up the second and third turn. And there's just a lot of stuff that when you play this deck, you can learn and then use it to your advantage when you play against it. So, I would recommend doing that. But you know what? You don't have to, because I'll probably play this deck again very soon on this channel, because I think it could maybe be tuned a little more to the different meta games, and I would love to try and figure out to lower the curve. But I don't know. If you have any suggestions, let me know. With all that being said, if you haven't, you should already have liked, comment, or subscribed. Those are great ways to help support the channel. Watch me stream live at twitch.tv/TheNerdySteve. And yeah, I hope you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening wherever you are, and thanks for watching. Bye.